Alright, doing another video. I've been getting the chance to do more videos this summer than I thought I was going to be able to just a few weeks ago, which is a good thing. Yeah, another window of opportunity here. So, I've been reading a little book recently called, like the title of this video, Human Aggression by Anthony Storr. Dr. Storr died some 13 years ago, I believe. He was a psychiatrist, published quite a lot of work in the second half of the 20th century. He was a clinical lecturer in psychiatry at Oxford University for 10 years, I understand. Anyway, this book I've been reading, it was originally published in 1968, so what, 46 years ago? This is a fairly short read, some 160 odd pages, 12 chapters. He has some interesting views and perspectives, the author. As I read, I found myself questioning or outright disagreeing with some of the views put forward here. I'm not sure if Dr. Storr revised some of his views in later works. Let me give you a little taste of the book, a snippet from the introduction. Okay. Quote, "We generally describe the most repulsive examples of man's cruelty as brutal or bestial, implying by these adjectives that such behavior is characteristic of less highly developed animals than ourselves. In truth, however, the extremes of brutal behavior are confined to man, and there is no parallel in nature to our savage treatment of each other. The somber fact is that we are the cruelest and most ruthless species that has ever walked the earth, and that, although we may recoil in horror when we read in newspaper or history book of the atrocities committed by man upon man, we know in our hearts that each one of us harbours within himself those same savage impulses which lead to murder, to torture, and to war." End quote. Yeah. He talks a bit about Alfred Adler and Sigmund Freud in the first chapter, and talks a bit about the so-called death instinct. I find myself wishing Dr. Storr was still alive so we could have a lively discussion, perhaps. I believe he was overusing or misapplying the word aggression in this book. I mean, his use of the word in a lot of cases is entirely justified, entirely appropriate, accurate, but not in all cases. Yeah. In the book, he mentions that Freud, Sigmund Freud, may have fallen in love with some of his own ideas. Could the same thing not have happened with Dr. Storr, I ask? I found chapters 5, 6 and 7 to be stimulating, challenging. Dr. Storr addressed aggression in childhood development, in adult life, and in relation to the sexes in those chapters. Storr had some insightful things to say about the relationship between depression and aggression in chapter 8. In chapter 7, titled Aggression in the Relation Between the Sexes, Storr said this, quote, "The idea of being seized and borne off by a ruthless male who will wreak his sexual will upon his helpless victim has a universal appeal for the female sex." End quote. Yeah. He goes on to say that women seldom have fantasies of humiliating or dominating men. Is that right? If you have an opinion about what Dr. Storr said, please use the comments section. Maybe we can have a discussion. The author says some contentious things in chapter 7, as elsewhere in the book. What else is said in this little book? There's a description of the schizoid character. I've heard of the person with so-called schizoid personality disorder being characterized in this way or that way. Bearing in mind that this book was written in the late 60s, it's safe to say that things have moved on since then in medical, academic circles, psychiatric research, you know what I mean. But then again, certain observations are as true now as they were 46 years ago, right? You might be surprised to learn that in the final chapter the author talks about reducing the world population as the most important thing we can do to make things less hostile, less tense. Dr. Storr seemed to think that the hydrogen bomb was likely to be the final solution. Yes, he actually did use the term final solution. Tragically, he said, he wasn't advocating nuking people as a means of population control. I think he was just making a pessimistic statement based on his idea that population explosion or overcrowding was going to lead to a situation where tension and hostility were so great that a nuclear exchange, a nuclear war, became increasingly likely or probable. That was his point, I think. Yeah. Interesting read. Not my favourite book ever, but challenging. So, not without merit.